Who?
Well, we've shown Stuart, and we've shown the
Vic
name
Henderson.
Vic Henderson. Yeah, I showed Vic Henderson's work. The names are getting like I'm
that's
blanking.
enough.
I'm
Yeah,
blanking. Yeah. But anyway, so
Did you show Jerry Schoenhaven?
I couldn't get any of his, but he and Vic were partners.
Right.
Yeah.
On the mural.
Remember they did that mural by the police station? And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In West LA, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's still there.
I was
Is
like,
it? I thought there was just part of it still up.
Well, it's faded, but it's
Yeah.
still there. Yeah.
is that the one with the freeway that's fallen in?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
my favorite one.
Mine too.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
ones. They did a real cool one on Brooks Avenue where they repainted Brooks Avenue.
Yeah, remember that.
Right. Sort of this west end of it.
Mm-hmm. The last time I went to Vic's studio, Victor's studio, he was doing clay castles.
So
he was
churches.
clay churches.
Yeah,
really unusual. And he was also doing these photographs where he would dress up in this Roman soldier's uniform and pose for himself and then draw that.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Was it fun making these paintings you're going to show?
Oh yeah, I was having a good time. I like doing that stuff. The only hard part was the picture cards, which we've discussed, is guessing who should be the King of Spades and who should be the Queen of Clubs. That was always.
And who are?
Well, you're going to have to see.
Oh, tell us one.
Well, the Queen of Hearts is going to be Mabel Normand. I was trying to go back and forth between LA historic figures and LA showbiz people. And so it's a variety of those folks. And, they're portraits, I guess, but they're fairly roughly created, where it's the marks, they're done with oil sticks primarily, and so they're rugged looking.
Oil stick takes takes a long time to dry for oil stick.
Yeah.
Unless you use certain kinds.
Well, these are the ones, I don't even remember the brand name, but they're the major manufacturer of the things. I was able to, there was an art supply place that went out of business, unfortunately, in downtown LA that used to be.
You mean Raw Materials?
On Boyd Street.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah. And when he was going out of business, he offered that I could buy the whole collection of his oil sticks for like $10. So
Wow.
I kind of got them all in one fell swoop.
Nice,
And
good
I'm still
job.
going through them. So,
Yeah, and your studio's down in, where's your studio? Your studio's Highland Park, right? And I enjoyed going to your studio. You have some really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of overwhelmed with stuff, and it needs to be a little bit sorted out before we have too many visitors at this point.
And how long does the opening go on, Sung-Hee?
Oh gosh, it opens April 2nd and did we say May?
Or the end of April,
April,
yeah. Until
April
Free's
30th,
gonna do the
but
next show, right?
right, Free
When is his
is
show?
well. That's actually your show may get extended. I think we have to talk to Stacy Valnes and. So we do have some space. We may be able to extend both your shows forward or backward.
And then Molly's doing the next thing.
Or put in a show in between. So it's going at least until the end of April.
We got to do a shout out for Stacy Valnes for making the opportunity happen.
Oh yeah, Stacy and Megan are fantastic. They're really, as Molly said, their original business is in real estate, but they are very invested in the community and kind of very like-minded in the sense that they really want to be bringing like arts and culture to their community. They want to be, leaders in that sense that, that they're helping people buy new homes, but they really want to be doing things and using the space to bring more culture to the place that they live, which is really admirable. I mean, we've talked about doing other events there, and they were like, like, you know, if you want to bring art or you want to do like book readings or you want to do things like that, we're all for it. We're happy to give you the space, to give people the space to do that. If you want to like do things that are going to make money or something, they're like, well, people can pay for that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a really, you know, a sincere offering that what they're doing is allowing their beautiful space to be used for gallery shows and giving all of us the opportunity to team up and do cool stuff together.
Awesome. All right, so I'm wanted to ask you, Molly, if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started showing work. You said you wanted to become, curating and stuff, and you said you wanted to like do the art thing. Did you start in New York or did you start here?
Well, I grew up, I wanted to be an actress, and my dad was an executive at Paramount, and he wasn't really, my mother was a society lady. The junior league was her bailiwick, and she loved that. She didn't want me in doing so. I thought if I move to New York, I can find somebody who will help me there. And so I got on a plane, and I got a friend of my dad's to agree to let me stay at his house. And I got on the plane and I sat next to this very attractive man who was the head of CBS radio for the network. And I thought, I'll marry this guy, this will be fine. And so I did. I sat next to him on the plane, and we got off, and I went to my dad's friend's house. I said, I met a man I'll marry, Howard Barnes. They said, oh yeah, we'll get him for you. They all knew each other, and he was divorced from number 3 or something. And so we courted for about a year. And during that time, we bought a house in East Hampton. And I'd never been exposed to anything like that here, because there was nothing like that, where you were meeting these great minds. You were meeting these people that you'd always wanted to hear about, and the artists that were in every book that we were all starting to read. And Joan Mitchell lived next door to me, and she had been at my that number 1 husband's therapy group. And she was married to Barney Rawson, who owned Evergreen Press. And he sold us a house of his, and Mike Goldberg was her boyfriend, and it was just a really. I
just saw her show in San Francisco. Did you get up there?
Yeah, no, but she was a really good friend. I loved her.
Stunning.
And so we had a ball, and then after that, I thought, well, I'd really like to have my own gallery. So my first husband, Howard, had been transferred out here with CBS, and so I rented a space, and got a gallery going, and then I kept the connection, and I'd always show those New York people.
Oh, great.
2 or 3 of them a year.
Okay, so, and this has never happened to me before, but it just turned off on accident. This has never happened to me before. This always works well. See how I'm trying to press the mic off?
No, it's done. Yeah.
It will not do it. So it's not letting me.
I've been having all sorts of very odd problems with technology this past week too.
Oh, there the mic is on now. Okay, so we're back. We're back, everyone. I think we only lost about like 2 minutes or 1 minute.
But that's the part where you heard all the nasty stuff. Well, you lost. No,
top secret.
Yeah.
No.
All the juicy
what
stuff.
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna edit this together so it plays
Right.
like I've done literally 25 of these shows and never had this happen. So
Wow.
please
Too much
excuse
magic in the
technical
room, that's why.
technical issues. Modern technology is awesome, but it can be a challenge.
How about? Did we talk about how Molly and Stuart met?
Let's talk about that. So tell us how you met her, Stuart.
Well, she had taken over the space on Melrose near Western that was Joni Gordon's spot.
Yeah.
New space. And lots of lots of Orange County-ish artists were shown in New Space when Joni had it. Who I met.
Where was this?
On Melrose.
Block east of Paramount.
Oh yeah, okay.
Called New Space.
New Space.
And her husband owned a lot of that real estate.
Yeah, and I had a.
And after she died, he gave me the place.
That was nice.
Yeah.
And I think Paul Rouchet owned a building on Western that he rented out spaces to artists.
But that's now where Jim McHugh is, and that whole group, and yeah.
And so that's how I had a space in that facility.
Did you? In his building on
On Western for a while, yeah.
Oh, I love that place. You know, they're reopening this Saturday.
I didn't know that.
5 women artists.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. I didn't know that they were reopening. It had a nice patio and it was cool.
And then who else was there? Were so many
I don't
well-known
know, a
artists
lot of
in there.
People, yeah, they were coming and going. It was, it was a lot of people had spaces in there. I don't even know how I found out about it to get a space.
Jim McHugh.
Probably, or maybe
Jim
even
McHugh's
Johnny
father.
suggested it.
Jim McHugh's grandfather wrote all those songs, Sunny Side of the Street, all those famous
Oh,
songs.
wow.
He went with Hedda Hopper.
Ah,
And then Jim was the grandson.
yeah.
And he's always been a photographer. He's been close for years with Hockney and done several books on Hockney, and he follows them all over the world. He's a photographer.
Yeah, and so that's how, I don't know if we met at that point, but that's probably where we met. At
Yeah.
New Spaces events.
Yeah, I remember.
When was that? Just context.
I don't know, middle 80s, I guess.
Well, I remember
Before you
your,
were
Right,
born.
wow, right.
I remember your show over at West LA College with that you did a big panel. You did a panel discussion and
Oh,
Stuart
yeah,
was on
yeah.
the panel.
Right.
I
And
believe.
Who else was on that? In that?
Miss Stewart, your friend, I can't think of her first name. Her last name is Stewart. Does the bright color paintings.
Oh, there's one in the bedroom. Yeah.
What's her first name? Why can't I think of that?
I was with her last night.
Oh, no. So you have less of an excuse to not remember. than
Yeah,
I do.
and Bart Lytton is her
Jack-
father,
Jack?
and he was head of the Democratic Party out here, and also started all of the
Yeah.
banks.
And all the, the beautiful mosaics on the banks, like
Yeah.
the old home
Yeah.
savings banks and stuff.
Yeah, they were all
Years,
his.
Yeah.
And then I think they
Wow.
kind of ran out of money, and now she
Yeah, there
was
was
living
some
in.
kind of corruptional
very,
same
very.
stuff going on with banks.
Yeah. Well,
Timothy Stewart, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
She
she's
was on
very
the panel.
lovely. She'd be fun for you to interview.
Yeah.
I had a show for her this last year, and I was so impressed with her. And she gave me a painting, which I just showed you in the other room.
Yeah, she's very nice.
Very smart. and-
Yeah. Then you did another with Rosalind Felsen?
Yeah, I had a
Rosamund
show for
Felsen.
Rosamond's
Yeah.
collectors. I mean, people who had started their art in her gallery.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. That was a good talk. How's Rosamund doing? Have you heard from her?
Well, she was gonna, we were gonna go into business together, and then she was gonna do it, and I think she sort of has given up. After I had that show, her boyfriend or whatever he is, did a really nice photograph for me. It's in the other room.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of a.
She
tried to rent a space or had a space for a short time downtown.
Oh, let me show you. It's right back here. Yeah.
And then I don't know. That sort of
Stay there.
petered out when the guy that was the main art dealer there got.
Wallace Berman.
Wallace Berman is the artist.
And they're trying to sell all of his. She's trying to sell all of his stuff now.
Oh.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, really? Tosh has a new book out about it being the son of.
No,
She's trying to sell his stuff.
Oh.
she bought so much. She had a lot of money then. And I think she needs money now.
Oh, that's too good. Yeah, but
We had a meeting
Oh.
this last week. She wanted to meet with me, and I didn't know her very well, but we spent the day together, and we're going to do it again next Wednesday. And she was the one I said, stop putting yourself down.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's
she
like an old boyfriend of mine.
Wallace Berman is a really, I've always admired his work.
Oh yeah.
And nobody's really gone into depth on, on the relationship of the family when they lived in Benedict Canyon. And
Oh well, have you read Tosh's new book, Growing Up as Wallace Berman's Son?
I have it, but I don't think I've ever read it.
Okay, I'll get you a copy.
I have a new thing now where I read one of my friends' books that I've never read before, and they give me a book, and then
Oh,
and now I'm-
books, like a book club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you?
it's just for myself though.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy of Tosh's book because it's just really like he grew up in kind of in Benedict,
Beverly Glen,
and went to school in West LA. Like he has the same kind of background I have, but my dad was a really middle class working guy, and his dad is Wallace Berman. So even though our paths may have crossed, it's interesting reading how different it was growing up on the top of Beverly Glen as opposed to
Yeah.
down by National.
Right
Sepulveda.
up from the Four Oaks. Remember we all
Yeah.
drank at the Four Oaks?
So he's got stories galore about his dad in that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I first found out about Wallace through Edmund Teskey.
Oh, wow. That's
Edmund
great.
Teskey.
Oh my God.
Edmund Teskey was my first art
Really?
mentor.
Wow, we all had him. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he was so great.
All the photographs.
Hollywood
all that.
Boulevard,
Yeah.
Barnstable Park, and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, he was an incredible guy, and he was always trying to get in my pants, and I'm like, Edmund, I'm straight, okay? He goes, you think you are.
Oh.
He was a fantastic teacher, and I always admired his tenaciousness. He also was very, very skeptical about the art world, and that was to his detriment.
Yeah, it was. That's exactly right.
But his art,
Oh, really?
his art was fantastic, and that's also how I met George Herms.
Oh, yeah, and I know George from when he was living downtown.
Yeah.
And George and I went to Berkeley together, and we were in a Shalom Ash play. I was the Virgin
Wow.
Mary, and he was Joseph.
No,
Wow.
really.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How funny.
Yeah, we were both going to be actors.
Yeah, how's George? George is still living down in Orange County.
Yeah.
He's doing okay. He's still. I know he's
Remember when he
Great,
lived
great.
in Benedict in Topanga?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We. should-
He's a great grandfather now.
Is he?
Yeah.
I had a show in '96 at a big converted sewing warehouse, and I had about 45 artists in the show, and I called George up and I said, George, will you be in my show? And he goes, yeah, if you'll show my wife's work. And I said, well, if you're recommending her, then sure, I'll show her work too. And he drove it up in this beater old pickup truck.
Yeah.
With this kind of an A-frame, big, gigantic sculpture, and the painting. His wife's, I think her name was Mary. Mary's painting was really good. I liked it. And I said, and no, I hadn't installed any of the work. And I said, where do you want the sculpture to go, George? He goes, how about right there? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. He was a cool guy.
He did portraits of Lynn Keenholz and when they did the memorial up at the Getty Center
For whom?
for Lynn
Yeah.
and for the sculpture guy whose name just left my brain. But anyway, they did a joint. They both had passed
Ed
away.
Keenholz?
No. What's his name? Anyway, this guy that made big ceramic sculpture, and George did memorial portraits for both of them, and gave them to the families.
That's
Yeah,
the way I
yeah.
met Lynn Keenholz through you. I had never met her before.
Yeah,
You brought me up to her house,
right.
and
Where
were
is
you
she
with
now?
us?
She passed on, unfortunately.
No. And who was that friend of hers that was a landscape architect and he's still around in Culver City?
Oh, I don't know. My stories with Lynn are kind of goofy.
Tell us one.
Yeah.
I was looking for another copy of the book that she put together, so I
Yeah.
called her, and in that discussion she told me that she couldn't find her kitty cat, and she was really concerned where her cat was, and at the time she didn't drive anymore, so she asked if I would help her find her cat. So I said okay, because I don't speak up enough and say no, I won't do it, as she'll tell me. Anyway, so I went over there and we went to all of the animal shelters looking for her lost cat, and she was concerned that one of the wild animals in the neighborhood might have gotten to the cat. And so we spent one day a week for a month going from animal shelter to animal shelter hoping to find her cat. And unfortunately we never found the cat, but we did have some nice lunches at various restaurants around town. And then that one day when you came over and we all had lunch with her, and Amy was there, and then I got up to use the restroom in her house, and I walked past her couch, and the cat was sitting on the couch, and the cat had been at the house the whole time, and somehow or other, she never, I don't know if she was getting older or not altogether, but she didn't know that the cat was at home, and we were traipsing around all of Los Angeles looking for the cat. So it was kind of fun because I got to spend a lot of time with her looking for the cat, but it was also sort of bizarre, and that the cat was at home, minding his own business.
Yeah, she was a longtime friend of Lee Miller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee. I have always admired Lee's photography.
And I don't know how she. I mean, I have no idea. Like,
I'm reading the
the relationship with Ed when that kind of came to an end. I guess I don't know what happened there. But she had a great house.
Yeah.
Beautiful home.
I have a question for you guys actually. So I've been in LA for about 13 years and moved here from New York. I'd love to get like your perspective on how the LA art scene, like your kind of synopsis or summaries about, you know, what was it like, I don't know, 30 years ago when you guys met, or maybe when you started, or maybe
Well,
I
it
don't
was
know.
all on La Cienega.
When I first
and
got
then to what it is now. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I've been here 13 years and I've seen a lot change, but you guys have been here a lot longer.
Well, when I
With
first
art
started getting in the art world, this was in the mid 70s, and I was 14 or 15,
Oh wow.
and I met everybody I learned to know over at Edmund's studio for his
Yeah,
photographs. He had his photographs May and December, first Sunday of May and first Sunday of December. You'd come to the photograph and you'd put in $10, then it became $15,
Well, right, yeah.
and you'd put your money in, and then you'd sign a 3x5 card, because of course there was no internet in those days, so you put your number and your address on there and your name, and all of them would go into a pile, and then everybody would get roaring drunk, and then about 5 o'clock they'd do a little ritual, and then he'd start picking the names out of the thing. And all the photographs were spread out over, they were all mounted and spread out on the table with tissue paper over them. So you never knew what you were gonna get.
Oh.
And one of the people, he would read a poem at the very end after all the work. You know, he would talk about each photograph, and everybody would clap, and looking down from the mezzanine and everything, and everybody's getting to know each other. I fell in love there. You know, there's all kinds of people. So then at the end of the show, he would read a poem, and everybody would guess whether their photograph was the one that won. And then if yours won, then you got to pick one of the big photographs off the wall.
Yeah.
That was, like, at the time, $750, which was a huge amount to pay for a photograph in the day.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Ulysses Jenkins, and I met Robert Heineken, and I met Edna Bullock and Al Weber, who was Ansel Adams' assistant. Then I met all kinds of the Witkins would come, and and there were people come from New York just to collect his work, and those were incredible experiences. So but the LA art world was really small, essentially. Like everybody was trying, like there was tons of artists, but not nearly as many as now, and everybody was trying to get in the few galleries that existed.
The Ferris, yeah.
Well, that was
Yeah.
number one, yeah.
The Ferris. And so, what do you think?
Rolf Nelson. Well, when I came in,
Nicola
I went to
Nicola.
Billy L. Banks and said, you should definitely go by there
Oh yeah, I love
and get them to gossip, because it was very much going the other night was very much like getting back 30 years.
Oh.
All the same people. There's Frank Gehry sitting there holding court, and
Oh, yeah.
Laura Lee Wood, and all those people that were collectors, and now there's some new collectors, but everybody was respecting the rite of passage that we had all gone through. It was just extraordinary. And it'd be fun for you to go and see, and then get that guy behind he even let me use his phone, the guy answering the phone, and just ask him to tell you some stories, or tell you about one.
Yeah.
And you'll get like a really good beginning of what it was like. And it's very similar now. I mean, of course there's a bigger crowd, but it's also very elitist.
Right.
And
Do you
people,
think so it wasn't like that, and obviously like in the beginning, right?
it was very elitist.
It was elitist back then too.
Yeah,
Well,
the art
this was
world-
a different group.
Oh, okay.
The art world has always been a place where you had to be trusted to get in with the crew. You know, you had to get to know people for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
People
it was
needed
like
to,
the Gernsteins were
people needed to get to know you.
Yeah.
Like, for example,
That's right. Yeah.
like for example, like that's the reason I think lately I've sort of had some sort of a voice, because you're around long enough,
Yeah.
and people get comfortable with you and used to you, Because in Hollywood, the culture in Hollywood is a lot like that too.
Dennis Hopper was always,
Yeah.
everybody wanted to be near him because he was an
Those
elitist.
photos, yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
he was,
don't.
he was married to an elitist.
Yeah, you don't get to like make movies in this town unless you're trusted and known. So you have to kind of make your own breaks to get in. And the same thing with the art world. It's just you have to get to know people and spend time with them, have dinners and lunches with them until to the point where they're comfortable and they're ready to, sort of let you in. And that's just the way it is unless you make your own breaks by opening your own gallery or this or that.
Well, I remember I played poker with Joe Good once, and I think that was one of my mistakes. I won, and I was like 19 years old, and I was playing with these guys that were like in their late
Why don't you
20s.
invite him for your opening?
I don't know, but it was kind of
I have
funny.
it,
I
I
think
have
they all thought that was, they all were experienced poker players, and I was this teenager, but somehow or other I managed to win.
Yeah, I would definitely send him something.
Yeah. I wonder how he's doing these days.
I think that would be a really funny thing because you're bringing him to the Luck of the Draw show.
Yeah,
Exactly,
They're going
exactly.
full
Oh,
circle.
there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
There you go.
And everybody wanted to get near Frank Pearls because he had
Yeah.
represented, was very close to the French
Oh.
aristocracy.
Yeah, and and at the time too, there was like that weird, I don't know if it was weird, but there was like, the whole, what did they call it? The gay mafia that was kind of running part of the whole art
I don't know
scene.
who that was.
Like the Nick Wilder crowd.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, that stuff.
That was, he stole my first partner that put the money up was a guy named Frank Aro. His family owned all the buses.
Oh, really?
Did they hang out at Roosterfish? Because that was
No.
a mafia over there too.
Yeah.
No, but he was, and then Nick got him away. Said
Oh.
she didn't know what she's talking about. Come with me, and got him to put all his money into that gallery.
Wow. And that's Sorensen showed there.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sorensen went to Northridge.
yeah.
So I know.
But that was really fun. And then you couldn't. I mean, Nick. And remember, and then there was a picture that David did of Nick diving in the swimming pool in Mulholland.
Yeah. There was some.
Hockney is a good person to ask questions, too. And
Also, who's still around is Hal Glicksman and Bob Smith, who started the LA Institute of Contemporary Art.
it was on Robertson, yeah.
Hal Glicksman's got great stories. I got to.
Yeah.
He and I are friends, and I got to interview him a few times. He's a great raconteur, great storyteller. Of course, for those who don't know or are listening, he was instrumental in getting the Duchamp show up because he was the
Oh, there's
installer.
Duchamp right there, the circle.
Yeah,
Oh,
when Duchamp had his very
Duchamp.
first retrospective at the Pasadena
Oh,
Art
right.
Museum.
Yeah, that was great.
And Hal was the installer there, and then later became the director of that museum, and then moved to
Robert
Irvine.
Rowan was good, too.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, everybody, come to the show on
Yeah.
April 2nd from 6 to 9. The Luck of the Draw with Stuart Rapeport.
Yeah.
And we've got to get what's his name there. I'll get him.
Get Joe.
Yeah,
Okay, and see if Mr. Geary wants to come along.
I'll try.
He was in the photo show. I mean, the Bridges show. Remember? Yeah.
And there's going to be
Joan Quinn. I went up to see her
yeah.
show in Bakersfield last
That's
week.
great that you did that.
Have you seen that? She had a show of her collection, and Frank had, her husband had died, and I went up there and I didn't know what to expect, and it was absolutely fabulous.
I'm going to go check it out. It's still up. It's the Bakersfield
Yeah.
Art Museum, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Joe Fay's in the show, I think. Didn't he show it with you at one
Yeah,
time?
he did.
Okay.
He's in Montana now, isn't he?
Yeah, or Wyoming.
You're Wyoming, yeah.
Something like that. One of those places. Here,
Well,
take a part.
Sung-Hee, thank you for curating the show, and Molly, thanks for being.
and then maybe
being
you
here
should
with
just
us.
walk around the rest of the house because there's a lot of stuff.
You're gonna
His
take the
sculptures in
There you
there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's walk
Well,
around and
thanks,
see it.
Juri, for bringing us all together, and looking forward to seeing
Yeah, I want to
everyone
see
again.
BG. Yeah, I want to
And
go
more
down and see your
people,
gallery. How did you get into that gallery? I know you told us the story, but originally.
Oh,
Let's
I
go look
just
through
answered
the-
an ad. I
Oh,
moved
nice.
here from New York.
So
I
I'm not
worked in the
sure
art
how
world
to
in New York. I
follow
was
Who'd you
at,
work for?
I was
You get
at
to keep this?
Sotheby's for like 5-6 years.
Don't you have a deck?
No, I
James
don't have this
Cohan
deck.
in
Oh, okay.
Chelsea.
I have the other
My
one.
last job
Oh,
was
okay.
actually at Pratt Institute.
You know,
Yeah,
so
I knew all
it's
those
very
people.
confusing.
Oh, yeah.
I have the green one.
Okay.
Before I came out here,
You
and then
cool with me
it was
having
hard.
this?
That's part of why I
It's 1
asked
out
that
of
question
20.
because it was hard to
You're gonna be missing
translate
the
that
music
career.
It was totally different though. It was much more direct here. We wanted to know somebody,
Yeah.
we get on the subway and meet them. Here,
Right.
it's much more.
Right, and
Takes
people
longer.
wanted, I didn't know anyone
It's perfect
here,
Yeah.
if she
and
wants
people
the
were like, "Who do
that
you
she
know?
got
Who do you know?"
these.
I
Yeah.
didn't know anyone
Yeah.
until I met
And
him.
these are
those
the
are-
chip.
And then he was like, "Oh, all right, yeah, you have
I'm not sure
experience.
what I'm
Okay,
gonna do
sure."
with these.
Yeah.
You know how he is. He's just
Say hi.
so
Yeah.
open-hearted,
These are like
Yeah.
the-
open-minded.
you
So
make them into
um,
NFTs or something.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
you wanna
wonderful.
recommend doing that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Are we supposed to
Are we done?
buy
Oh,
these or look
I
at
need
these
to.
or
Well,
Oh, yeah,
marry
what are
them?
the
What are we
chips
supposed
for?
to do?
I think, well, you're welcome to it because you're Molly, but don't